Welcome to First Unitarian Society of Minneapolis, the birthplace of Congregational Humanism. We carry on that tradition of free thought today, dedicated to promoting a free search for truth, meaning, and justice. Our web address is firstunitarian.org. I'm David Breeden, Senior Minister. Welcome.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome here to the First Unitarian Society of Minneapolis. 1 hour earlier. Look at you all. You got whatever sleep you got, and you got here. Good for us, you folks online. I hope it's very comfortable where you are. That's right. Welcome this Sunday, March the 10th, 2024. First Unitarian Society is a member congregation of the Unitarian Universalist Association of Congregations. Our programming is on-site, live, online, live, and on-demand 24/7. I'm the Reverend Kelly Clement. I'm the assistant minister here, and I'm joined today by the Reverend Dr. David Breeden, our senior minister, by Mike Vazich, our music director, by now let's see if I get these names right. Our guest musicians, boy, are we in for a treat today. Emily Boyajian, hey, and Sarah Coleman. So glad to have you here today. And of course, our mighty tech team in the back of the room here who really keeps us going. Oh, and Caden Colton, who will be reading for us today. Wherever you are, if you will turn to your right or your left and say, "I'm so happy you are here today." We're happy you're here today, Sam. Welcome everyone to this place of love and justice, where we attempt to live up to humanity's highest ideals, highest hopes. Here we agree with the poet May Sarton. We have to dare to be ourselves, however frightening or strange that may prove to be. Thank you for being with us today.
Hello, I'm Emily. It's wonderful to be here today. Thanks to First Unitarian for inviting Sarah and I to be here. So I'll be performing some songs that I wrote using the text from poems by the famed poet Robert Frost. First we'll have The Road Not Taken, which you might have learned in high school English class way back when. If you haven't, this is about how often in life there are two paths ahead of you, and you have to take only one, and often you wonder if you made the right choice. But it's good to sort of like just take pride in whatever choice you made and enjoy the path that you chose, enjoy the path that is there for you in the future. So hope you enjoy the song.
True.
begin our assembly by lighting the chalice, and I invite you to say the words of the third FUS aspiration with me today. We aspire to pursue wisdom through reason, science, art, and the stories of civilizations. And now, inspired by that beautiful music, we will sing as well. Our first song is number 163, For the Earth Forever Turning. Please rise as you are willing and able, and you may either look in the Gray Songbook or the lyrics will come up here. Standing for our congregational covenant. Love is the spirit of this place, and service its law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another. Thank you. Please be seated. First Unitarian Society is a congregational humanist community. We are here for each other, for our neighbors, and for our planet. When we gather on Sundays, we take a few moments to reflect on the human experience, the joys, the sorrows, and the milestones. We do this so that we stay in touch with our own humanity, and we do this to remind ourselves of the value of a moment of stillness. Downstairs, there is often a card basket to send notes to folks who are unable to attend assembly or folks that we mention in joys and sorrows. If you want to send a card and it's down there, you can just write a note and we'll send it out for you. Today, we want to mention Jacob Mullis's family, Ziggy, Liz, and Kirk, who had a fire in their home a few weeks ago. We mentioned this here and mentioned the GoFundMe page, which is now up to $16,000. Much thanks to the members and friends of First Unitarian Society. We were a bulk of those donations. And so we appreciate the opportunity to give. We continue to send good wishes, Jacob, to you and to your family as they navigate life in transition. I just want to say a word also for, as I do when I stand up here, for the ways that we are overwhelmed by the world, by the transformations we see that we do not welcome, transformations in our democracy that are difficult to witness, as we see our democracy struggling along and we do what we can to help, as we witness the ravages of the war in Palestine, and hope for the return of the hostages in Israel. It is a difficult, difficult time to be alive. And that's why we come here together, to bring our sorrow, our frustration, our anger, our grumpiness, our joy, our love, our happiness, our healing, all of it we bring to this moment together. Let's take a few moments of silence to recognize how our lives are connected one to another and reflect on those in our world who work to comfort the suffering and work for justice.
I have another song based on a poem by Robert Frost. This is not as well known. It's called Fire and Ice. It was written almost 100 years ago, actually over 100 years ago now in 1923, but I think it still is very relevant today. It talks about the end of the world and hatred and how hatred can destroy people, the world itself. And I think that at this time where we have a bigotry on the rise, as well as war in many places, is still ice and hatred is still dangerous, but I'm still hopeful, because looking back 100 years, I think the world was a far more hateful place with a war that had killed millions of people just a few years back, World War I, and also tons of bigotry that was present with the KKK, and I think we definitely have come along in a positive way since then. I think that even though we still have many problems with bigotry and violence, I think the world is still a far better place now. So I have confidence that love will triumph over hatred and that ice will not prevail and the world will continue living on and be a better place in the future. So I hope you enjoy the song.
From what I've tasted destruction ice is also great, and its suffice.
I want to issue a special invitation to our noon program today. It will be in the Chalice Room. You'll go and get your mini meal and enjoy a little conversation, and then come at noon to the Chalice Room, where we will be talking about the Trans Welcome program and team we are coalescing here at First Unitarian Society. In the past couple of years, as you well know, authoritarian forces have been using gender-based laws and violence to limit the ways that people who are trans, non-binary, gender non-conforming can be free in their home states. And Minnesota, because of our gender-affirming laws, has become a haven for people who are traveling from other states. We are going to talk about those changes, some of the things that we know and some of the things that we're learning. We're going to talk about groups that are already doing this work and how we can join in the welcome process here at First Unitarian Society. We are not trying to invent the wheel. There are folks who are doing really good work already, and we're going to talk about how we can help continue to make Minnesota and First Unitarian Society a welcoming space, this haven. So at noon today, I invite you to join me and several of us who have already committed to be there to learn more in the Chalice Room. Thank you. Katie.
Good morning. Today's reading comes from the 1855 edition of Leaves of Grass by Walt Whitman. This is what you shall do. Love the earth and sun and the animals. Despise riches. Give alms to every one that asks. Stand up for the stupid and crazy. Devote your income and labor to others. Hate tyrants. Argue not concerning God. Have patience and indulgence towards the people. Take off your hat to nothing known or unknown, or to any man or number of men. Go freely with powerful, uneducated persons, and with the young, and with the mothers of families. read these leaves in the open air every season of every year of your life. Re-examine all you have been told at school or church or in any book. Dismiss whatever insults your own soul, and your very flesh shall be a great poem.
Thank you, Katie. Thank you so much. Yeah, a little bit old language there, but I think you get the point of what Whitman is talking about. Now, imagine a place that embodies the essence of Walt Whitman's vision. A society where every individual is viewed as unique, a living poem. In such a place, personal integrity, love for the earth, advocacy for justice, and embracing the full spectrum of human experience would not be merely ideals, they would be the foundation of daily life. Such a place would exist because the people there challenged the established forms and norms in order to create a realm of liberty in self-expression, in personhood, and in social participation. Those things would flourish for all. In such a world, social norms would perpetually evolve with the human imagination, and positive change would not only be possible, but it would be a joy every day. Each of us would be purposeful at work, writing the great poem that is our articulation of a free and responsible human being, living freely ourselves, creating conditions of freedom for all sentient beings. This is a vision of liberty itself, democracy itself, and in social participation that is the free thought tradition. That represents it and states it well, I think. And this congregation helped birth that vision well before 1881, which I was talking about last week. The journey towards transformation is deeply rooted in our free thought humanist tradition, a path carved by the relentless pursuit of inclusivity, understanding, and love. It's about dismantling the barriers imposed by custom and taboo and unjust laws. And today I want to accomplish two things in talking with you. First, to establish in your mind where First Unitarian Society stands today as a beacon for free thought and free living, and to solidify this position in order for us to go into new battles for free thinking and free living in a nation that has paradoxically become both more liberal, as you mentioned, and also less so. It is a paradox. A recent book that discusses the current of free thinking that led to humanism and that continues here today is by the scholar of religion Lee Eric Schmidt. The book is titled The Church of St. Thomas Paine, A Religious History of American Secularism. Dr. Schmidt writes, to include religion in the history of 20th century secularism requires moving beyond the politically charged reign of secular humanism, the great whipping boy. That entails, in part at least, recovering the sectarian distinctiveness and minority standing of those humanistic projects that sought to give secularism religious significance of one kind or another. I will repeat that. It's a little complex, but it's absolutely essential to understanding this place. That entails, he writes, in part at least, recovering the sectarian distinctiveness and minority standing of those humanistic projects that sought to give secularism religious significance of one kind or another. That is this place. Schmidt examines the congregations that exist today that are based on that tradition of free thought, and he writes, still another example is John Dietrich's old church, First Unitarian Society of Minneapolis, which embraces its historic role as a humanist pulpit and continues to cultivate that congregational identity. Schmidt continues, likewise, the Ethical Societies of New York, St. Louis, Philadelphia, and Chicago, those are our sister congregations, retained active presence in their respective cities, evidence of a long institutional shadow cast by the late 19th century. Why aren't other Unitarian Universalist congregations like this? Why don't they make the book? Well, it's a very complex story. It's a story that's really hasn't been written yet. In this religious ferment that was the late 19th century. It's complicated. I highly recommend Dr. Schmidt's book, also, Restless Souls. It's probably the most readable of his books, and if you want to know anything about where liberalism and religion comes from, this is essential reading, I think. The Making of American Spirituality from Emerson to Oprah. All right? It's the best summary I know about that complexity of the late 19th century. That's the most accessible of Schmidt's books. Another is Village Atheists, how America's unbelievers made their way in a godly nation. One of the truisms of the 19th century was that each village had only one atheist, which wasn't exactly true, shall we say. Now, Schmidt's book, Heaven's Bride, The Imprintable Life of Ida C. Craddock, American mystic, scholar, sexologist, martyr, and madwoman, zeroes in on the most tragic story of free thought from this particular era. Ida C. Craddock was jailed for disseminating birth control information through the U.S. mail. That's one of the things the Liberal League I was talking about last week were trying to fight. She refused to stop sending out material about healthy sex, spent time in prison, and she took her own life before she was to return to prison. Now, was she insane? Or was she merely a Victorian-era woman talking about having sex and enjoying it? That is the history of what we're talking about here. Norms stomping on human beings. Now, last week I talked about the beginnings of this congregation as a chapter of the Liberal League fighting those U.S. mail policies that ultimately hounded Ida C. Craddock to death. Many terms were floating around at the time. Finally, humanist became the term for those of us who gather in some kind of religious community to be among other human beings, but we don't listen to religious traditions. The human responsibility of being a being among other beings is what we've always been about. The concept of freedom based in this tradition describes not only a state of being, it's an ongoing state of becoming. And that is influenced by thinkers such as Walt Whitman. These individuals, each in their unique way, challenge us to rethink our notions of freedom and justice and morality. For instance, Thomas Paine's advocacy for theism and reason over scriptural fundamentalism, and Whitman's call to love the earth with all its imperfections, underscore a fundamental belief in individual integrity and conscience. It's an achieved selfhood that, when achieved, propels us to fight for the liberation of all humans and other sentient beings. Why is the title of Schmidt's book, The Church of St. Thomas Paine, A Religious History of American Secularism? What could possibly be a secular church? I read you the 9 demands of the Liberal League, all basically trying to get Christianity out of the de facto theocracy that we live in even today. A secular church was the goal all along. And Thomas Paine was the greatest fighter for secularity among the so-called founding fathers, such a fighter that he has been more or less edited out of the story. During the late 19th century, there was a concerted effort to keep him out of it. But let's look at what he had to say. In his most egregiously anti-religious work, The Age of Reason, Paine wrote, "I believe in one God and no more, and I hope for happiness beyond this life. I believe the equality of man, and I believe that religious duties consist in doing justice, loving mercy, and endeavoring to make our fellow creatures happy." Oh, I don't see any religion there. A few lines further down, he wrote, "My own mind is my own church." It's been paraphrased in several ways. That's the way he actually said it. My own mind is my own church. Notice that he says, "I believe that religious duties consist in doing justice, loving mercy, and endeavoring to make our fellow creatures happy." That's what will become humanism eventually in this congregation. Religious devotion is about making our fellow creatures happy. Happy is not a particularly good way of saying that, but that was the translation of the time for this euphonia, this way of living into a happy state of being. This line of thought leads inevitably to the concept of social justice, doesn't it? If you're going to live in this world, you're going to insist that others can live well in it as well. And that's the ideas that we have never given up. But where do we get the idea of a so-called higher law? We don't say, God told me to do this. Where do we get it? That's been a question for a long time. In a theocracy, the answer is easy. God's representatives on earth tell the governmental powers what God wants. The human government enacts and enforces God's laws, and moreover, God's good citizens exact just punishment on individuals who are not obeying God's laws, which happens also to be, well, they become taboos and social norms of the people. They put people like Ida C. Craddock in prison and hound them to death because they know what God says. It's a vicious circle that leads to honor killings, mob violence, and the list goes on. Enforcement of social norms. Where do people get the idea that they even should do that? Neighbors police neighbors and enforce assumptions about what God wants. That's the social world I was born into, and many of you as well. It's a little better these days. Unfortunately, many people today still live in that world, especially in rural areas, in towns, villages, the kind of place I was born. Probably the weight of that immovable stone of social opinion is why Henry David Thoreau's essay, Civil Disobedience, hit me so hard for the first time. Thoreau's work, along with Emerson's, is why Walt Whitman could write, quote, "Re-examine all you have been told at school or church or in any book. Dismiss whatever insults your own soul, and your very flesh shall be a great poem." Thoreau put it simply, I was not born to be forced, he says. I will breathe after my own fashion. Let us see who is the strongest. Thoreau even sounds Whitmanesque before Whitman started writing. He wrote, "My desire for knowledge is intermittent, but my desire to bathe my head in atmospheres unknown to my feet is perennial and constant." And another one, "We should treat our minds, that is, ourselves, as innocent and ingenious children whose guardians we are, and be careful what objects and what subjects we thrust on our opinions. Read not the times, read the eternities. Knowledge does not come to us by details, but in flashes of light from heaven." Inspiration, right? Remind yourself that next time you're getting depressed reading the news. Read not the times, read the eternities. Thoreau said about law never did make men a whit more just, and by means of their respect for it, even the well-disposed are daily made agents of injustice. Agents of injustice. That's what you are if you're listening to the social norms and the God of those social norms. Mahatma Gandhi, Martin Luther King Jr., the list goes on of people who were inspired by Thoreau's civil disobedience to non-violently resist unjust laws. I think that's why it spoke to me so much when I was 20, 21, along in there. I had always thought that the only way to get a just government was violent, bloody revolution. Well, here was Mr. Thoreau saying there is another way to change how human beings act in the world. Last week, I asked us a rhetorical question: is there a through line in this congregation? What is that through line that has been true from the 1870s through today? And I think there is a through line. That through line is free thinking and thinking freely. Free thinking and thinking freely. First Unitarian Society is one of those rare and beautiful human creations, part of the Church of St. Thomas Paine, part of the religious history of American secularism. We've never been religious in a traditional sort of way. One through line for us is an insistence that only the mind, freed from taboo and social norms, those things that too often are part of the religious mindset, are the enemy of free thinking. My own mind is my own church, St. Thomas Paine insisted. And so have most of the ministers and most of the people who have ever attended this congregation. Another through line is that we feel an obligation to joyously dismiss taboos and change social norms and laws so that we may live and think freely. As the great A. Philip Randolph put it, freedom is never given, it is won. Humanist means that each of us accepts the human responsibility of being a being among beings. We're not more important, we just are. And our job is to make everyone, all sentient beings, better off. That is the human responsibility. It's not a divine command for us, because we believe above us is only sky. An authentic self is a self that exists in community with other people. That's another thing we have insisted upon, is that we do need to get this church in our mind out to meet up with others so that we can make a social difference with each other. An authentic self is a self that exists in community with other people. We are our true selves when we not only tolerate but celebrate diversity and uphold the rights of all members of our society. Transformation and liberation beckon us to challenge norms, taboos, and laws, dreaming of a more inclusive world and striving to turn those dreams into actual social freedom for everyone. The question of our day today is about transgender people. Does First Unitarian Society stand in solidarity with transgender people? Well, in our tradition, we don't ask any gods for their opinions. We don't ask society for its prejudices. We ask only, are you writing the great poem that is your true self? That's the question. Are you writing the great poem that is your true self? If so, then you are one of us in our tradition, and we stand in solidarity with you. Remember, go the right way, and continue writing that great poem that is you and us together.
Well, now we have an opportunity to sing again. Many of you know this song, Turn, Turn, Turn. Please stand as you are willing and able and sing out.
Turn, turn, turn. There is a season be born, a time to die, a time to plant, a time to reap, a time to kill, a time to heal, a time to laugh, a time to weep. To everything turn, turn, turn. There is a season, turn, turn, turn. And a time for every purpose under heaven. A time to build up, a time to break down, a time to dance, a time to mourn, a time to cast away stones, a time to gather stones together. To everything turn, turn, turn. There is a season, turn, turn, turn. And a time for every purpose under heaven. A time of war, a time of peace, a time of love, a time of hate, a time you may embrace, a time to refrain from embracing. To everything turn, turn, turn. There is a season, turn, turn, turn. And a time to every purpose under heaven. A time to gain, a time to lose, a time to rent, a time to sow, a time to love, a time to hate, a time of peace. I swear it's not too late. To everything turn, turn, turn. There is a season, turn, turn, turn. And a time for every purpose under heaven.
Beautiful FUS choir. Please be seated.
Good morning, I'm Sandy Martin. I serve on both the membership committee and also on the FUS Board of Trustees. First, as a member of the membership committee, I am bringing to your attention that we're going to be participating in the Doors Open event on May 18th and 19th. And if you haven't done this in Minneapolis before, this is when historic buildings, architecturally significant buildings open their doors to the public that might not otherwise be open. And we get the opportunity to show off this lovely space. And so that is on May 18th and 19th. The reason I'm bringing it up today is we are welcoming volunteers to show off our building those days. So if you're interested in either signing up for a shift during the Doors Open event or serving on the subcommittee, we're meeting every other Wednesday evening until then. Please see me or Suzanne or Polly Peterson or Bruce Nelson and let us know you're interested. And then secondly, I serve on the Board of Trustees. And I heard today David say, norms stomping on human beings. I say, let's flip it. Yeah. Maybe we can be the human beings stomping on the norms.
Yeah.
Yeah. And to help us do that, we welcome your contributions to FUS. First Unitarian Society is a free, independent, and self-governing congregational humanist community. This congregation brings our message of justice and hope to the world due to the generosity of our members in time, talent, and treasure. The easiest way to give is to scan this QR code, which will take you to our giving page. There you will find several easy ways to contribute to the mission of First Unitarian Society. And of course, those of you in the building who wish to give cash or checks, you may stop by our office after the service. Thank you so much for making the work of First Unitarian Society possible.
Come on.
Hi everyone, my name is Lily Lamb. I'm a member of the Camp Unistar Management Committee and just wanted to kind of give a quick heads up. I will actually be downstairs at the mini meal afterwards if anyone has any questions. I know that some of you here have perhaps been to Camp Unistar, but for people who aren't familiar, it's an intergenerational Unitarian Universalist camp in northern Minnesota. We're situated on Star Island in the protected Chippewa National Falls. It's gorgeous, it's beautiful. We offer 10 weeks of family camp programming throughout the summer, as well as a dedicated youth week. And I'll be downstairs to answer any questions. I will highlight that we do have an FUS member offering a week of programming this summer. Phil Duran will be speaking about science. So you can visit campunistar.org to both register and check out all of the different programming we have. It's UU focused, from everything to science and activism and movement, art. There's something for everyone is what I will say, in addition to the beautiful surroundings where you can kayak and relax and enjoy a really beautiful outdoor, unencumbered experience with nature. So please find me if you have any questions. Otherwise, check out campunistar.org, and hopefully we'll see some of you this summer on the island. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Good morning, friends. For those of you who haven't been around for more than a week or two, I'm Alan Callender. And besides an additional role or two around here, I'm a member of the annual auction team. Next Saturday is our annual auction. And this is a fundraiser that's really a fundraiser. Over 20 years with the same phenomenal auctioneer, Colonel Kurt Johnson, will be back. An evening of community, music, conversation, good-spirited bidding, great food and desserts, and maybe some wonderful prizes and purchases. For example, a $5 raffle ticket this year might win you a $150 dinner for two at Murray's Steakhouse. We will have a table downstairs at the social hour. You can look at some of the items being auctioned, and more importantly, buy advance tickets. We need you to buy advance tickets so we know how many people to plan for. We certainly don't want to make the mistake of running out of food or beverages. There's 3 ticket prices. $25 advance still through this week, $15 for first-time attendees. If you've never been there before, this is your chance. And $30 if you wait until next week to buy them at the door. Please buy an advance ticket so that we can get an accurate head count and plan that. And if you're really motivated to help FUS, we really could use a few more volunteers. Some of these time slots are only like 15 minutes, so we really would love to have a few more people sign up to give us some help. So we will be downstairs. Plan to see you there. Thank you.
So much vitality in this place. There's so much going on. A few brief announcements today. Our mini meal this week is compassion and simplicity and generosity. Yum, yum. This week, FUS will begin sponsoring and serving a second Sunday supper, an evening meal for people who are experiencing homelessness or housing insecurity. Our Director of Kitchen Operations, Dave Lessler, is heading up this effort. And the dinner will be served each month, second Sunday, at Plymouth Congregational Church. So our mini meals on the second Sundays are going to be a little smaller than usual. Our efforts will be going to help our neighbors, and any donations that you make today to mini meal will go toward our second Sunday efforts. Here's just a personal note. Many of you remember our longtime member, Bill Ogren. Bill was a frequent, yes, I see you, Ruth. Bill was a frequent attendee of the second Sunday supper. And sometimes when Ruth wasn't sure where to find him, she would go to that second Sunday supper to find him. So it feels really lovely that we're able to continue this work. So Dave and your kitchen crew, thank you so much for what you're doing for FUS. We'll continue this project. Today at noon, you're invited, or today during the mini meal, you're invited to sign cards for Abortion Provider Appreciation Day. That's this coming week. It's kind of Appreciation Week. You can stop by the table where Joyce Riedessel will be and sign a card for a provider, an escort, a doula, a nurse. The whole list is there. You just sign a thank you note and we'll send it out to you to an independent abortion provider today. I've already talked about the noon program, the Trans Welcome program in the Chalice Room. Also at noon today, if you're new around here, our Welcome to FUS session will happen in my office. Our membership coordinator, Suzanne, will be there. If you're ready to learn more about FUS and explore our pathway to membership, we would love to have you come by there at noon. The men's group is meeting in the Circle Room at noon. The spring equinox rehearsal is in the Dietrich Room, and the UU Animal Action Team is in the library. Man, we got it going on here. Yeah. What's the best way to keep up with all the things that are happening? You should read your Friday email. You got it. Thank you so much to everyone for all the ways that we are enlivening the work here. And now we will extinguish the chalice. Please say these words with me. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. All these we carry in our hearts and in our minds until we are together again.
Hello, I now will be performing one final song. This is Stopping by Woods on a Snowy Evening. This song's about how when life gets busy, it's good to take a step back and relax and just appreciate everything around you and take joy in things like snow or nature or anything that brings you joy. After that, it can be hard to get back into the routine of things, but it's still worth doing so and doing tasks that you're planning to do because you can just contribute to a world that is brighter and happier and worth enjoying in the future. So hope you enjoy the song.
Go out into the world, be fearless, ask questions, hold on to what is good. Strengthen the weak, comfort the fearful, serve the suffering. Do what makes you come alive. Write that beautiful poem that is your life. So may it be.